Let's look at cross-site scripting, also called XSS today. Cross-site scripting is a common web application vulnerability that allows for execution of malicious scripts in a web page. Before we dive deep and learn what this vulnerability or attack is all about, it is important for you to understand that some of the predominant common security attacks occur due to input validation flaws. And the reason for this is when an application does not validate user supplied input, it provides an entry point for attackers to get into the application and execute whatever they want. Cross-site scripting is no exception, and it happens due to input validation flaws. Now, there is a significant difference between injection attacks and cross-site scripting, though both of these happen due to input validation flaws. In an injection attack, the application allows for a malicious user or attacker to supply malicious input, takes the input as it is, and processes the input. In some cases, like in the case of SQL injection attacks, the input can go one step deeper and can also be stored in the database. So the flow here is the input travels all the way from the application front end, goes through the middle tier via the application code logic, and is stored in the backend. Now remember, we are talking about the input and how it goes all the way down and touches the application layers. However, the result of processing the input comes back to the front end. Note, the results come back and not the input in itself. Now let's see how is cross-site scripting different. With a cross-site scripting attack, the malicious input supplied in the form of scripts touches layers of the application as in the case of injection. But the difference is the input in itself comes back to the application front end as a result, resulting in a successful exploit. To be specific, a malicious script is supplied in the application input field, accessed via a web browser. This input or script, after being processed by the application, comes back to the browser and gets executed. So that's fundamental to cross-site scripting, which brings me to my next point of significance. So cross-site scripting applies only to web applications because it requires a script to be executed post-processing in the web browser, and so it does not apply to the client or standalone applications which are not usually accessed via a web browser. Let me reiterate the flow. Consider you have an application and an end user trying to access the application via the web browser. Now the inputs that the end user supplies, be it acceptable or malicious input, goes to the application logic and hits the web server. The web server returns a response back to the end user, which is made available at the front end via web browser. Let's look at an example to better understand this. Consider you have a search bar in your application and you search for dast. Now the search term dast is your input and the web server returns results as you see in the screen. Now note that the search term that you supplied doesn't disappear when the results are returned. It still remains, and this is because the web server returns the supplied input along with the results. Now imagine a malicious user supplying a script as an input. The web server will return the same script supplied along with the results if the application has input validation flaws, and the scripts will be executed in the browser. In a typical attack, the scripts wouldn't be as simple as the one you just saw. The scripts in itself will have logic to extract session IDs, tokens, etc., which is the main goal behind a cross-site scripting attack. We'll take a look at the different types of cross-site scripting attacks in the upcoming session. Keep watching, like, share, and subscribe if these sessions are helpful to you.